inspired. Happy to welcome our next guest this morning. Dr. Marcus Thompson is the 13th president of Jackson State University. Jackson State originally founded in 1877 as Natchez Seminary, then it became Jackson College, and in 1967 Jackson State College before transitioning to Jackson State University. Dr. Thompson, we appreciate some of your time this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for having me today.
Certainly appreciate you joining us. Jackson State on a little bit of a heater right now in terms of publicity and people recognizing the good things that are coming on. Obviously coming off a national championship in football. T.C. Taylor did an incredible job with that football team. The marching band, part of the Rose Bowl parade, a lot of good national publicity for Jackson State in recent weeks.
Absolutely. We are so excited about that. Coach TC built the team in 2 years and got us to that national championship where he won. We're so excited about that. And the Tournament of the Roses, the Rose Parade. We believe we have the best band in the land, the Sonic Boom of the South. And they represented not only Jackson State, but the state of Mississippi so well in their performance there.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, we know about the rivalries that exist in the SWAC and the MEAC, the Celebration Bowl. That was such an incredible scene there in Atlanta for Jackson State to bring home that national championship. But the rivalry that exists between bands, particularly in the SWAC, and the Sonic Boom takes a backseat to no one. It really is incredible to watch the performances and the creativity that exists with a little bit of a rivalry among those bands.
Absolutely. It's a great tradition that we have where our bands battle it out while they're on the field. And even there's a special piece of that rivalry that's called the fifth quarter, where our bands play kind of back at each other, back and forth after the game ends. And all the fans stick around to see and record. And it's just really a great time. And at the end of the day, we battle against each other, but we're all one big family. Who we all support each other in our mission. So it's a beautiful thing how we go to battle on the field, but then we support each other, off the field.
Dr. Thompson, athletics many times has been referred to as the front porch of the university because of the publicity that it gets on television, because of the publicity that exists nationally. It's the first impression that a lot of people get of a university, but you better than most know that a university is far more than what it puts on the football field or the basketball court or what the marching band does. So in terms of what's going on the academic side of things, on the growth side of things at Jackson State, where are you right now?
Yes, that's a great question. We have amazing academic programs here, over 90 undergraduate and grad school programs. We're in the process of growing as it relates to our freshman class, particularly. We're up 2% there. And you mentioned the front porch being athletics. We attribute a lot of that to the prominence of our university on that side, with the football team, with other teams like our volleyball team, for example, our softball teams who have also been successful. And so we are looking forward to doing many new and innovative things on the academic side, looking at exploring additional programs. We have one of the strongest business schools in the country, for example, where we educate more African Americans than any other program in the country as far as doctoral degrees in our business school. And we're very strong in STEM. Biology is our top major here at the university. We send a lot of students on to medical school as well. We launched an initiative, a 3+3 program with the University of Mississippi, an accelerated law program where our students spend 3 years here and they spend their 3 years in law school and get both degrees from both institutions in 6 years. So a lot of exciting things going on here as far as academics.
One of the big topics, one of the buzzword phrases that we've seen a lot in recent years in higher education is the enrollment cliff. And it's something that administrators at schools all over the country are looking at or dealing with. Mississippi is not at all immune to that conversation, but if you look at some of the IHL numbers over the last couple of years, you alluded to growth in the size of your freshman class this year, a 2% growth. We've seen growth at Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Southern Miss and other schools in the state of Mississippi. In terms of that enrollment cliff and planning for the future, where are you right now?
Well, Richard, that's a great question. We are very confident in our ability to continue to attract students, not only from the state of Mississippi, because about 60% of our students are right from Mississippi, but we are very confident. We've been very aggressive in our recruiting. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was out on a presidential bus tour in the Jackson area. We've been very aggressive there, and we have been growing our admissions. Our applications are up by 14%, which is a great thing, and a lot of it ties to what you mentioned earlier, the notoriety of the university all over the country. So we have no doubt that we will be successful in our recruiting efforts because we know that those admits will translate into additional students, and we feel that this freshman class will be even larger than last year's freshman class. So we're pretty confident that we will continue to move forward in growing that freshman class and in essence, continue to move forward in growing our enrollment at the university.
Visiting with Dr. Marcus Thompson. He's the 13th president at Jackson State University. With growth, sometimes come growing pains, and there is an issue of where do you put new students who want to live on campus or who want to live in some form of university housing. It's my understanding that is an issue for Jackson State, but there are some things that are maybe in the pipeline to help alleviate that issue?
Absolutely, Richard. So there are growing pains with growing, and the university has experienced that, I'll say, for the past several years. We've had pretty much a wait list of students who need housing in excess of 400 students. For example, it was excess of 700 in 24, and then in 23 about 600, and then 2022 in excess of 700 students. So we have a need for additional housing on campus and for our students. So we have been exploring various opportunities, and one of the opportunities that we're exploring is a property downtown, the Marriott, and we talked about that after making a request to the legislature for a new residence hall. It just made more sense to consider a property that we could get students into a lot faster. Since we have this wait list, you can or renovate perhaps a lot quicker than you can build a new residence hall. So
sure.
We were looking at the property downtown, the Marriott Hotel, which we're looking at about 500 resident spaces for students, an opportunity for academic spaces there as well to house things like entrepreneurship programs, executive MBA, and so on. There's 38,000 square feet of meeting space. So that's something that we've been exploring, and the legislature actually appropriated $7 million for the acquisition of that property. So now we're in this process of vetting that matter with the IHL board staff, and we're working through to see whether we can get that across the finish line.
Does it feel like there's positive momentum in that project, like this is something you're going to be able to pull off?
I feel that there is positive momentum, positive interest. Certainly the legislature, they were excited about the opportunity because they funded, gave us funds for the acquisition of the property. Okay. So I do believe that
So will the $7 million
interest.
Would the $7 million cover the purchase of the property, and then you'd have to come up with additional money for the renovations necessary?
So the purchase is about $5.3 million.
Okay.
So it would cover the purchase, and we would have to raise funds and seek additional funds from the legislature to do a renovation. Yes.
Gotcha. Dr. Thompson, have you got a few minutes that you can hang with us through the break? A couple of other things I'd love to talk to you about.
Oh, absolutely.
Visiting with Dr. Marcus Thompson. He is the 13th president at Jackson State University. A lot of good things happening. We talked about the sonic boom of the South. We talked about that national championship in football. An incredible reputation with an endowment that is now approaching $100 million. an R2 research designation, which means they're doing great work at Jackson State in research and doctoral studies, and all of those things. Will continue the conversation. I will give Dr. Thompson a heads up as we go to the break that one of the things we'll talk about is consolidation. That is a conversation that is always controversial, but might make some sense when you look at some of the colleges and universities in the state of Mississippi. We'll get his thoughts on that when we come back with you. You can join us on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. This is the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Good to be with you this morning on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi, continuing our conversation with Dr. Marcus Thompson. He is the president at Jackson State University, and there's a business buzzword that we hear from time to time, Dr. Thompson, synergy. It's like one of those words that goes on a PowerPoint presentation, and everybody kind of looks at it and not always sure that we know what it means, but I'm curious about synergy at Jackson State. Not unlike other universities, there have been times when it hasn't felt like everybody was pulling in the same direction. But with you in the position of president, with Ashley Robinson and the job that he's doing in terms of running the athletics department, with Mo Williams in basketball and T.C. Taylor in football, faculty, staff, it feels like, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, everybody at Jackson State right now, at least from the outside looking in, seems to be on the same page, seems to be pulling in the same direction. Do you get that sense internally?
Oh, absolutely, Richard. We have a great team here, and you mentioned Ashley Robinson on athletics, who's done a great job of leading us forward, being innovative. Our provost, Dr. Denise Gregory, on the academic side is leading us forward in a great way. And we have all come together because we know that we can only move forward as a university by working as a team, which is in the best interest of our students and all of our stakeholders. So, yes, we are moving forward with great momentum, enjoying each other, as having a great time working together.
I mentioned this before we went to the break, and it's something that I know you have to be careful when you talk about this, because people become very territorial very fast anytime the word consolidation is brought up. Jackson State certainly has enjoyed great success as the flagship HBCU in the state of Mississippi, but not all of the schools have the same advantages that exist for Jackson State because of location and facilities. When you look at the HBCU landscape in Mississippi, is there a scenario where you see it making sense for the combining of any of the schools, where that would be a strategic decision that would be beneficial overall for the HBCU system and for the state of Mississippi?
Well, Richard, I think that's a great question. And so with that, I will say I've worked at the system for over about 15 years, and in that time, I saw each university, particularly our HBCUs, having a very distinct mission, serving a specific population of our state, and serving specific students in the state and meeting different needs. And I see that those missions coming together to really support our state. But I'll say at the end of the day, any type of consolidation would ultimately fall with our legislature, and decision that body would make. But I see the vitality of all of those HBCUs working together, because each one, to me, plays a critical role in the state of Mississippi. And I would also say, as it relates to economic development, I think they play a key role in the economic development for Mississippi and educating African-American students in our state. Yeah.
Well, and certainly there are unique traditions and unique identities. I guess my question is more from a duplication of resources standpoint. If it's like together, you're stronger than you are individually. Does that make sense?
Well, I see us as a system. I would argue, Richard, that we're working together, not just HBCUs, but all of our universities work together to serve the state of Mississippi, to educate all Mississippians. And so Our board office and our system, our board, they do a great job helping us with duplication issues and making sure that we're being fiscally sound, not only at each university, but across the system as well. So I would say our board does a great job of that, ensuring that we are making good decisions, good business decisions.
Sure.
And serving our different stakeholders across the state. So I think our board really guides us in that effort that you're referencing.
You mentioned a second ago the partnership with the University of Mississippi for undergraduate degree and law degree. As the two largest schools in Mississippi, University of Mississippi, Mississippi State, Dr. Glenn Boyce at Ole Miss, Dr. Mark Keenum at Mississippi State, do you see an opportunity for more partnerships going forward that are beneficial to the institutions on both sides of that equation?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I'm so excited about in my time at IHL over the years, I've developed great friendships with all the presidents, actually. But we've been talking about opportunities to explore for additional partnerships. Again, that's the benefit of being in our system, where we have relationships and we're able to help each other to bring forward more efficiencies for our state and really support students because I believe that we're better when we work together. We're a stronger state when we work together and support each other, support our sister institutions. So we're very excited about that partnership. That came very early on in my tenure because of the relationships that already existed.
Two things for you as we wrap up. I'm curious when you look into the future, when you pull the crystal ball out of your top desk drawer, what is the thing that is most concerning to you going forward? Maybe the biggest issue in terms of things that you need to address, and what are you most excited about moving forward as the leaders, the president at Jackson State?
Yes. So one of the things I'll say, I'm going to go back to an issue we mentioned earlier. I'm greatly concerned about housing moving forward because in order to deal with this enrollment cliff and to appropriately bring in additional students, we must have housing, and particularly housing that the university provides because 68% of our students are Pell eligible. So that number correlates to our students and their need for housing provided by the university because private housing is not as affordable for our students as we recruit students from not only Mississippi but from out of the state as well. So housing is a critical issue in really wanting to continue, as we are the only urban research institution in the state of Mississippi, expanding our growth downtown, being a part of Jackson, because in order for Jackson State to grow and to thrive, the city of Jackson must also grow and thrive, and that's why the Marriott is such a benefit in looking at that, having space downtown to have our students there, partnering with business leaders in entrepreneurship, for example, perhaps having the restaurant in the space for locals to come and visit. So really establishing or positioning Jackson State to be a part of the driving force in the economy of Jackson is one of the pillars in the city.
Hey, that's really interesting. Forgive me for interrupting, but when you think about the relationship, for example, in Hattiesburg that exists between Southern Miss and the city of Hattiesburg, or Mississippi State and Starkville, or Ole Miss and Oxford, that relationship is really, really important, and it feels like that's a relationship that could use some work in Jackson, between Jackson State and the city of Jackson, the state capital.
You're exactly right. Those relationships must be intact, and I believe in each one of those examples that you mentioned, the town and the universities, they have grown together and have worked to build the economy, and really you don't think of one without thinking of the other in those scenarios. And so we see those places as a model, an example for us in the city of Jackson. So we're very excited about all the possibilities there.
Know that there's a lot of good that is happening at Jackson State right now. Dr. Thompson, really appreciate your time. Look forward to continued visits and continued success for you and the entire university.
Thank you, Richard. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. Look forward to it as well. Dr. Marcus L. Thompson, 13th president at Jackson State University, joining us this morning on the Gallo radio show. Lance, a lot of good stuff happening at JSU on the fields, in the classroom, and I think encouraging when you hear those numbers, 2% growth, that is incremental growth in terms of freshman class. Obviously, student retention beyond that, just initial enrollment, but getting all the way to a diploma is a big deal, and one of the things that all university leaders are concerned with. But I think reason for optimism at Jackson State.
Man, I'm going to tell you, I am honored to get to ride along with JPD, and I was telling the great doctor, we were riding around the other day just looking and oohing and eyeing at how beautiful the campus is. They do such a great job, and it is a beacon inside the city, and exactly what he said, it has a great impact on the health of the city.
Quick timeout, half an hour left with you. This is the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We are back with more right after this.